Morning. Welcome to RotoWire Fantasy Football Live. Charlene's already here. Good morning. Great to see you. Others will be coming in soon. Always excited to see everyone. Monday. Oh my gosh, reaction day. We love it. Remember, RotoWire 5 days a week, 11 a.m. Eastern. The start show is on Sunday. We have no London game next week. So we went all the way till kickoff yesterday, 2 full hours of questions. That was the longest time I've ever had to answer questions. It was exciting to do it. Glad everybody was around. All right, let's talk some week 6 craziness. So we went into the day with 2 undefeated teams. Now we have none. I talk about the human nature thing all the time. And 49ers go into Cleveland. Cleveland playing really a practice squad quarterback. PJ Walker played with the Panthers before, but he's a practice squad guy. And subliminally, it is so difficult to get emotionally up for a game against a wounded opponent. Your coaches, and I say this all the time, they'll tell you all week long, they're dangerous. They're dangerous. And they knew that the Browns had a great defense. There was no question there. But you go in, you're a little flat. The Browns defense makes your life miserable. And here's the thing. Obviously, there's some injuries, right? Every team has injuries. So we don't cry about injuries. But, Debo misses most of the game. And McCaffrey misses the fourth quarter. Okay, he was there for 3/4 of it. Trent Williams injured his ankle. He's in a walking boot after game. He played, but he probably wasn't himself for that. And you look at all this together, and the 49ers are a super top-heavy team. That's a team, they can't afford to have key players get injured. Again, super top heavy, and they have a significant potential for drop off when they are missing the key pieces to their team. I know every team, if you lose your quarterback, which they didn't, that's obviously a problem. But the 49ers are just built, real specifically. And we talked about it on the start sit. I was very concerned Brock Purdy was going to be in a lot of trouble. And Christian McCaffrey I made this bold call on the XM show yesterday saying McCaffrey would be his first game. He didn't score a touchdown with the 49ers and he'd be under 70 yards. Well, he had 52 yards. He went under that. The touchdown, there were 2 15-yard penalties on that drive. He probably wouldn't have gotten in the end zone without those fortunate penalties. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Brock Purdy was under massive duress. But again, he was missing players. So there's that. But he was missing some throws, and we've seen it. But that Cleveland defense is for real. If they do get Deshaun Watson back soon, and he could just give them good enough play at quarterback, this team is very dangerous in the AFC landscape. Now, takeaways from the 49ers, we have to see what McCaffrey's injury is. It's an oblique. Don't know if he's going to miss time. Maybe he misses. Hopefully, if he does, it's not an extended absence. Debo is the second time he's been hurt. They said x-rays were negative. Okay, well, fine. But usually the MRI shows what we're looking for more than just clean breaks and things like that. So George Kittle, well, he had a block in this one. He only had 2 targets. So there's that, right? Because obviously with that ferocious pass rush, and when Trent Williams got injured and Cole McKivitz, the right tackle, is a liability. So it was a blocking game for Kittle, but they really could have used him in this one, and they really weren't able to. For fantasy, if McCaffrey misses a little time, Elijah Mitchell got in there, played 11% of the snaps, but then Jordan Mason ended up with 5 carries at 24%. Maybe Mitchell's not 100% from the knee injury yet. So, but I think both would be interesting pickups for the 1 week if McCaffrey was to miss time. Charlene, you picked up Fournette. You talked to other podcasters. They all laugh, but you'll have the last laugh. Hey, if he signs somewhere, we all are desperate for running back. So if we get a running back, life is good. It always is. I was telling people to start Chuba Hubbard yesterday. Deontay Foreman. Amari DiMercato. Oh, that, you know what? Weird with DiMercato, and I'll get back to this game in a minute. But with DiMercato, he ended up playing the most snaps of the running backs, but he didn't come close to the touches. He had like 3 touches. Keontae Ingram had 10 carries and a target. Damian Williams had 8 carries and a target, but DiMercato had the most snaps. Weird. Very, very weird. Just don't get things sometimes. All right. Browns takeaways. Like I said, just Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt was up to 37% of the snaps. He came in, played 2 games before the bye. I have a feeling he was working with some of the game shape, no training camp. Don't know what kind of shape he was in, but he closed the gap to 50% for Ford to 37% for Hunt. Hunt had 1 more target than Ford. Carries were close, 17-12. Hunt scores a touchdown. Hunt may be working his way under the radar here. He is versatile. He's not the player he was a few years ago, but in this offense, he still could be functional. So right now, he's working his way into the flex range, and it could go a little higher than that. I don't think it's much higher than your mid-range RB2 at some point if he gets there. But right now, he's on the flex radar, especially with 15 touches. That's a pretty good workload. Charlene, 6-0. Wow, winning without Watson, Jefferson, and Montgomery. Very, very nice. Congratulations. That's a great start to the season. Hopefully, it goes all the way through. All right. That's good on the Browns 49ers. Just that subliminal point. Now they're not unbeaten anymore. Before I get to the Eagles later, which I want to talk about that as well, I want to talk about the Lions for a minute. We basically have set up a tier where it's the 49ers and the Eagles. And then really right now, the next tier is Lions and Cowboys, right? And the Cowboys, you might not even leave in that tier. But man, the Lions just find different ways to keep getting things done. They lose David Montgomery early. Fine. Goff, usually on the road, not so great. He throws for 353 and 2 touchdowns, one of his best road performances we've seen. And really, again, dealing with injuries, right? Sam Laporta gets his 11 targets. We don't know what kind of shape he's in, but he goes 4 for 36. So he doesn't do a lot. But Amon-Ra St. Brown cashes the check here. 15 targets, goes over $120 and a touchdown. Wow. I don't know if it was bad defense or a great play, but he caught this ball over the middle. He somehow navigates to the corner, kind of does a half hurdle over somebody. It was a beautiful play. Credit to St. Brown. All the credit in the world to him. I had to when I rewatch that game, I don't know what the heck happened and how he was able to get to that corner. But again, great players make things happen, and it works out for them. So very, very good opportunity for him. But the Lions defensively, I think this is what we don't talk about enough. The Lions can bring it defensively. Now, I don't know how, they played the Chiefs in week 1. The Chiefs didn't have Kelsey. The Chiefs, obviously, their offense is not, in my eyes, they are not what they were. The Lions are doing taking care of what's in front of them. They're covering well. They're getting enough pressure. They're very good against the run. They're a solid defense. I would like to see them when they play. Are there any elite offenses now? 49ers maybe. But we definitely need to see them when they're up against high-end offenses. Again, maybe not as many as we thought this year, which is going to get me. But anyway, the Lions right now, they are in the equation. And if the 49ers have injuries, if the Eagles don't ever really figure out completely their offense, they're scoring points most games, but they really haven't figured it out. I don't know. The Lions could stand toe-to-toe with them. The Lions are well coached. They are what they are. They stick to their identity. They're improving. They're always improving. So the Lions are dangerous right now. This is going to be a fun team to watch every week. Right now, there aren't many teams that I would go into a game saying Lions are underdogs. Not many at all. Very, very small number at this point. Which brings me to the AFC. Mateo, welcome. You tied. Oh, man, a tie. Oh, but if you were 0-5, that's probably a victory. I like it. You have a big run of success. That's your springboard now. Now that springs you to some big wins coming forward. Hey, if you're enjoying the show, please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons if you're on RotoWire YouTube. If you want to get set up with a couple free days of access at RotoWire, no credit card needed, go to rotowire.com/Jim. Now, the AFC. So we went into the season and we thought the AFC, that was the conference. Good luck battling for those playoff spots. There were all these heavyweights in there. And now, Chiefs are okay. I mean, they're okay, but they're not blowing anybody's socks off, right? The Chargers, obviously, a lot of talent, lots of issues. We see them tonight. Really don't know what we're getting for week to week with them. So that's the West. And then you go to the South, and obviously, even the Jaguars. The Jaguars are not as good as we hoped they'd be. They're winning. They're fine. They're in great position. But they didn't take that next leap offensively we thought they would. We were hoping to see a juggernaut offense. Not that. Texans are a great surprise, playing very well. Go to the East. Buffalo, wow. Almost lost to the Giants. Lost in London. Week to week. 1 week they can be the world beaters. And then, we even saw them lose to the Jets without Aaron Rodgers week 1. Again, a subliminal game maybe there. But these high in Miami, look, Miami, they got blown out by Buffalo. But otherwise, they've been playing some weaker teams and crushing them. That offense is for real, obviously. But you keep going through, and what division am I missing? I'm missing, Ravens. Again, Ravens are fine, but this is not a juggernaut team. And the Browns, the defense is great. The Bengals, are starting to come around a little bit. But the AFC, it's not what we thought it was. This is not a conference where we're like, it's 7 teams. They all could win the Super Bowl. No, not right now. It's really still the 49ers and the Eagles, despite those losses. They are probably the class of the league right now. And the Lions could factor right in with any of those top AFC teams. So, wow, things change fast in the NFL. When we really thought that we had it, we understood it, we find out we really know nothing. Crazy. All right. Anthony Cervino will be coming in soon. Always excited on Mondays to talk some football with Anthony. I know he's going to want to talk some Jets Eagles, so I might hold off on that for him. So let's talk some Seahawks Bengals. I did mention the Bengals briefly here. Joe Burrow. All right. So they only score 17 points, but they win. First half, they got some points up. It was really a weird second half. Jamar Chase was on pace for a great game. I think he had 69 yards at the half. He had 11 the rest of the way. It was just a very odd game. Didn't have a lot of identity. Joe Mixon, again, continuing to compile 12 carries for 38 yards. Just, he gets volume. So his fantasy, idea is good. Anthony Cervino, welcome in. Anthony, week 6, talking little Bengals and Seahawks. I just started. Remember, you can find Anthony at the Real NFL Guru. Anthony, just tell everybody hello before we get to that Bengals Seahawks game.
What's going on, guys? Big, crazy week 6. That's all I got to say.
All right. So I was talking Bengals first, and it was a weird game for them, I was saying. First half, they looked really good. Chase had 69 yards. He ends up with 80. Mixon's, again, continues to be a compiler. He's just getting a lot of touches, not doing a lot with them. But for fantasy, he gets you some catches. Occasionally, he gets you a touchdown. Compiler there. But Burrow, I will say this. He looked better. He was moving around the pocket. He was clocked at 19 miles per hour on one run, which was kind of cool. And I saw him drive the ball on some occasions a little better. I think for right now, a setback can happen. I think he's past it. But what are your thoughts on the Bengals? They head into their bye, or even on yesterday's game?
Bengals are sitting at 3-3. They're usually a slow starting team, and it did not look good for Burrow early in the season. And I think Burrow's he's good to go now. What I didn't like is after a really strong first half, that whole Bengals offense kind of slowed down. I think they need to make some corrections in through the bye week, but I think there's really a lot of good things on the horizon for Cincinnati. Like, I would not count them out. They're still very much a Super Bowl contender, especially when you see struggling teams like Buffalo.
Oh, we were talking earlier about the AFC, yeah. Anthony. And before the season, we were like, oh my gosh, so many contenders, so many heavyweights. It ain't that way. There is no team in the AFC right now that we're like, oh man, we have no chance. No, it's anybody's ball. Do you think it's anybody's game in the AFC?
I feel like it's anybody's game in the NFL. I don't
Correct.
think there's one definitive team anymore that we can say can't go out there and lose to another team.
The 49ers dealt with some, obviously we're talking, they're very top heavy, and losing Samuel for 3/4 of the game didn't help. Losing McCaffrey in the fourth quarter didn't help. Trent Williams had an ankle. He came back in the game, but he was in a boot after the game. That was some really massive hits. Do you think the 49ers are still, is it one of those games? All Super Bowl teams have that game.
I mean, you want to make excuse for injuries. The Browns didn't have Deshaun Watson. I believe they're down one of their offensive linemen and Nick Chubb. So, teams deal with injuries. It's how you overcome them. My biggest thing with Brock Purdy has always been, because this dude really, outside of the Raiders last year, has not really played a back and forth game, or really has not played without a lead. And we saw that yesterday, and it was not the same Brock Purdy. And I get it. You're down CMC and Debo, but there's a lot of teams down weapons, and their quarterback still gets it done. Like Joe Burrow last year didn't have Chase for how many games?
Right. So, but, and again,
they still have Kittle and Ayuk. Where were they?
Right. Kittle was blocking because they had to contain the pass rush. He was very rarely going out. It was one of those games, right? Because Cleveland just brings so much heat, and Trent Williams being compromised certainly didn't help. But again, I get it. And the injuries are part of the game. But what I want to point out is Brock Purdy did bring them downfield for a chip shot 41-yard field goal that their third-round rookie kicker missed. I do want to say that. He did everything he could to get them the W, and it fell on the kicker. And I get it. He didn't score a touchdown. Well, you could put it in the kicker's hands, but man, that was a chippy. So that's one thing I want to take away from that game. They had another field goal he missed too. He drifted another one.
In most, like I get Cleveland's defense outstanding, but this is an offense without their, Pro Bowl, All-Pro running back and quarterback. Vegas did not see this game being very close. I did not see this game being very close. I think there's a lot of people in survivor pools who are now out who didn't see this game being very close. So, and to me, that is also on Brock Purdy. You need to win these football games, and you can't, should it have come down to that field goal is my question. Probably not.
Right. Now, one thing I talk about literally almost every week, Anthony, is that it's the subliminal switch. When you're the 49ers, this is a trap game. This is a massive trap game. They played the Cowboys in this big stage game, blew them out. Now they're going to play a team with no quarterback, a practice squad guy. From a mental subliminal standpoint, your coaches all week long can say they're dangerous. But in the back of your mind, you are playing a practice squad quarterback. Yeah. And to get up properly emotionally for that game, it's subliminal. You can't control it. I'd been there in different basketball and baseball scenarios when I played, where you knew the opponent was terrible and you just try to talk yourself into being ready, and you weren't. Is there anything to that?
I think the whole trap game thing, that it is part of the conversation, but these players should also know it's the NFL. How much of a difference is there really between the best team and the worst team? We see worst to first happen all the time. This isn't Major League Baseball where you have one salary, one salary allocated at $200-300 million, and then you have the Pirates at $20 million. All of these teams are really close. So you should be getting up for every game.
Right. And that's my point. Consciously, we understand that. It is very conscious. It's subliminal, and that's the problem. And I just see it week after week, and we see all these upsets. I remember there was a number of years back, I want to say that Buffalo was a 17-point favorite against Minnesota, and they lost. And that was when they were like in that big Super Bowl window, and they got beat pretty good too. So anyway, we'll move on. But that is part of it. It's maddening because we want to be rational and break it down, and then we get that. All right, Anthony, Jets, Eagles. Wow. The first word I will just say is wow. The Eagles had this game. They had it for 59 minutes pretty much. And then a big interception in a return sets up the Jets for the go-ahead score. First of all, on the Jets side, Zach Wilson, 19-33, $186, doesn't throw a touchdown. Breece Hall does get the score, catches 5 passes. Garrett Wilson just continues to win and get it done despite bad quarterback play. It was really the Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson show that kept them in the game at all. Thoughts on the Jets first?
On the Jets side, this defense is for real. When you're playing without your two starting cornerbacks, and you're able to minimize this Philly offense and passing attack the way you did, that speaks volumes to what they do up front with their pass rush. Last year, when before the Breece Hall injury, when it was Garrett Wilson, Zach Wilson, and Breece Hall, this Jets team was winning these type of football games. And with an unleashed Breece Hall, the way we have him now, I think the Jets are going to keep themselves afloat. And this team's going to be a problem. They're 3-3. I don't know if they have any business being 3-3. And 2 of the wins, Buffalo, Philadelphia, 2 preseason Super Bowl contenders. These are not slouch wins that they're picking up either. I think this Jets team, that there's something to it. They need to keep it together. But we need more from Zach Wilson. I get Zach Wilson makes some, we'll see him make a play with his legs when he has to, but he needs to put his defense in better position sometimes. And I know easier said than done, but we need to see that progression. He did take 5 sacks, 39.5 quarterback rating. We need better.
Yeah. Anthony, apparently Aaron Rodgers was walking on the sideline without crutches.
And throwing.
Right. Is there any chance by week 14, 15? Any chance he's on the field?
Is it medically impossible? I don't want to say anything's medically impossible anymore, but Aaron did say, I think he said, like, if they're around for a playoff contention game or in the playoffs, he's going to try to come back. As an Aaron Rodgers fan, I want to see it. Do I think it's plausible medically, especially in Achilles? Probably not. But again, he's off crutches. He's throwing a football.
He's not going to be mobile. He doesn't have to be mobile. He's not young Aaron Rodgers. So realistically, but the protection in the offensive line that could be a problem. Wow. But man, if he could just get to rolling and just get in the pocket and getting Garrett Wilson the ball, I mean, think about the upgrade it's going to be fun. And we just recognize a few people here. Let's see what we got here. Mateo is in. Like I said, you picked up a tie, broke a bad losing streak. Good. Jonathan Gonzalez, you're thinking to trade Mahomes for Chase. 2-quarterback league. Watson and Stafford are your other quarterbacks. Anthony, thoughts on that?
You broke up there for a second. What was the question?
Yeah, so he's may trade Mahomes for Jamar Chase. It's a 2-quarterback league. Okay. He has Watson and Stafford. Stafford still has a bye coming up. Watson, we don't know his ultimate return date. It could be soon. What are your thoughts?
Because it's 2-quarterback, I'm a little bit more hesitant. I get getting Jamar Chase going to be a big upgrade elsewhere. But Watson and Stafford, how much do we trust these guys? How much do we trust the longevity of Stafford's health? How much do we trust Watson's shoulder not lingering longer? So I think that could put you in potential hole later on.
100%. Yes. So I can't in a 2-quarterback. If it's super flex, maybe, but you got to have 3 quarterbacks. So I can't do that one. If you could get a quarterback back from the other person who's viable, maybe you do that.
Charlene, like Chase and a quarterback would work.
That would work. You had to have 3 quarterbacks. You don't have 3 quarterbacks in a 2-quarterback league. You are in trouble. All right. Charlene had Curtis Samuel on the bench. We've been talking about him. He's pretty much in this offense. Sam Howell gets sacked a lot. He goes to the middle of the field a lot. Jahan Dotson has not been his number 2. It's literally been Samuel. He doesn't have a major ceiling, but he usually gets you about 4 catches, about 40 yards, and there's a 30% chance of scoring. Is that going to change for Samuel?
I listen, Curtis Samuel has been like a mainstay. When he's healthy, he's been pretty productive in his offense. Granted, like you're saying, no ceiling, but unless you're playing in these big points like FFPC tournaments where the big points matter, as Scott Fishbowl, where the points matter, if you're in your standard 12-team PPR league, then these high floor players have value. Like I'd rather have 10, 12 PPR points from Curtis Samuel than maybe 5 points from Dotson. So I think Samuel should be considered as a startable piece on your team.
Exactly. Yes, 100% on that. Let's get through these other ones a little quickly. Eric Murrow needs 36 points from CeeDee Lamb and Keenan Allen. 80-20 on that. 90-10, Anthony?
36 from those two. What is that, about 15? I think I'm not worried about Keenan Allen. I'm worried about CeeDee Lamb because he hasn't really broken out yet. This could be the game. This could be a game tonight that makes up for Sunday Night Football's low-scoring massacre, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
because we should see a lot of points tonight.
71.5 yards on CeeDee Lamb. I'm betting the over on that prop. I think this is a big bounce-back game. John Rubright, 5-0, had Fields on the bench. Last 2 weeks decided to start him. Oh, man, injury, that's tough. Uncle Ted's in the house. Started to commit over Ferguson. There you go. Gotcha. Anthony, I got playing down your opponent we talked about. Joanna's in the house. So we got some kind of emoji there. Welcome. Julia's here. Oh, Anthony, you know Julia. And good. Yep, definitely here. All right, we got to get back to the show here a little bit. Now, everybody else here, welcome. I see Sauger, Brian, Anthony. Welcome aboard, everybody. All right, Anthony. So the Eagles, they dropped this game. DeAndre Swift, 10 for 18 on the ground. He gets it done through the air, 8 for 40 and a touchdown. So for fantasy, he's fine. But, man, the yardage every week, you had that 175, the 130, then we're seeing some 60s. And he's fine for fantasy. But I think the Eagles need more from their running attack. What's the problem here?
Yeah, they do. And I don't know if it was so much DeAndre Swift or it was just that this Jets defense is a lot better than anybody's giving them credit for right now, because Swift has been productive and gets those chunk plays. I don't know how long he missed, but maybe missing Lane Johnson. We know that plays a big role when Lane Johnson is not in there for the Philadelphia Eagles. But, outside of Jalen Hurts, Gainwell 2 for 13, the Philly, they weren't really running the ball well. And it seems like in a close game, right? This is a one possession game most of the time. In fact, Philly had 2 scores. Why are you only running your DeAndre Swift 10 times?
Yes, exactly. And
why are you throwing it 45 times when you had a 14-point? No, it was a 14-9. You didn't have to throw the ball that much. I'm sorry.
No, they threw it too much. Side note, not the counter. And I didn't mention Lane Johnson did leave with a high ankle. That's tough. As great as their line is, Lane Johnson is the man. And if you don't have Lane Johnson, that's a massive loss. But now, Devontae Smith, he literally had at least a 50-yard catch. There was a pass over the middle of the field. There was not a defender within 10 yards of him. It hit him in stride, and he dropped it. He ends up 5 for 44. He gets his 11 targets. Squeaky wheel game. He gets the targets, did nothing with them. Is this just a blip on the radar, or is Devontae Smith maybe not as great as we thought he was last year?
I think Devontae Smith's probably coming back to earth a little bit. I think we talked about it last week on this show. That Devontae really had a good year last year, but he was also heavily out-targeting A.J. Brown. Now everything's correcting itself. We are seeing A.J. Brown put up almost unprecedented numbers with how many games over, 125 yards. I think this is now 4 in a row he's had. And Devonta Smith, okay, you want to make the excuse he's only had 5 targets and I think 3 games this year? Fine. He had 11 yesterday. What did he do with them? Similar stat line to what he was getting with 5.
Oh, my God. Now, A.J. Brown. Anthony, I made this comment. I don't think it was on our show. I made it on a different show, I believe. I said that, look, you could take Justin Jefferson, you could take Jamar Chase, you could take Tyreek Hill, and you could take A.J. Brown. If you ask me, they are all the best receiver in the game. One is not better than the other. If A.J. Brown had the opportunity and the targets that the other guys get, he wins in different – all 4 of those guys win in different ways. They're all beautiful players. Yeah. But I don't think A.J. Brown is out of that conversation. It's just been stats. It's just been years in Tennessee. Yeah. Last year, Devontae Smith getting more targets than Brown down the stretch. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think it's fair. Like, A.J. Brown reminds me of T.O.
Yes. Rookie year, I called him T.O.
Terrell Owens, the way he's built, the way he plays. And I think he's, I say the same thing about Goddard. You put Goddard and put him in Kelsey's role, we're going to probably get close to Kelsey production. I feel the same way. You put A.J. Brown in that Justin Jefferson target share, we're going to see special.
Yes, and I'm glad you said about T.O. because during his rookie year in Tennessee, I called him Terrell Owens version 2.0. I think now it's like Terrell Owens version 1.01 because he and T.O., I don't know which one is better either at this point because T.O. is a legend, but I think A.J. Brown is too. All right, so will the Eagles figure things out? Brian Johnson, their offensive coordinator, he just isn't getting the rhythm and the flow of the offense. I know Hurts missed some throws. I get that. But I still think the offense is missing flow. And the one thing he did figure out, all right, if we're stuck, just throw it to A.J. Brown. And at least he got that right, but that's not going to win in January. Is this going to get fixed? Or maybe is Brian Johnson just, hey, not every coach is Shane Steichen. Sometimes you bring in a coach and maybe they're not capable of making those fixes.
I think it will get figured out. There's too much talent on this team for it not to begin to click. You have to remember, this is still a new coordinator and everybody still has to adjust. And even yesterday, again, you have a lead most of the game. DeAndre Swift has been getting volume as a ball carrier, and they abandoned that mindset. They abandoned that scheme yesterday, and I think that set the offense back a little bit.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I'm going to be – so right now, how would you say the Eagles finish the season? Are they the 2 seed easily? Do they crap out in the second round of the playoffs? Is this a Super Bowl team? How do you see them right now?
I don't think Philly's a Super Bowl team. I think They lost too much last year. Both coordinators, key players on both sides of the ball, especially the defense. There was injuries all over the place on the back end of that defense. Like, last year, there was a lot of games where Jalen Hurts was playing with a 2-possession lead, and you hear it all the time. You play quarterback differently when you're up 2 scores instead of down 2 scores.
Exactly correct. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team right now either. I don't think that's the case. Can something change? Yes. I am not confident that Brian Johnson has this down. Now, after their bye, we'll see. You always give a team after a bye, it's possible they have time to take a breath and recalibrate, but I am not optimistic either. A couple comments before we get to the Monday night game. Julia's giving you props for your Breece Hall draft picks. Yep. Yeah. You invested in them. Definitely working there. And let me see. Jets going to the playoffs. So, Anthony, what's your final word on it? Did the Jets make the playoffs or not?
Man, initially with the way the AFC, we thought the AFC was going to be, I would say no, but I think there's a shot that they sneak in there as the final seed.
Yeah. Now, I would say there's a good, because their defense is going to keep them in games. But man, I like every other team though. They're going to end up losing a couple games they shouldn't lose, and every team does it. They're going to have to almost be pristine in those games. All right, let's see here. Brian Upton asks us, thoughts on trading Jamar Chase for Raheem Mostert. Anthony?
I can't make that move. And Raheem Mostert's playing sensational football right now, but Jamar Chase is starting to get going. We're starting to see the best version of Joe Burrow. And I think we see Chase overall have the higher ceiling for the rest of the year. Plus, he's a wide receiver, more injury risk with Raheem Mostert, especially because it's Raheem Mostert. Plus, Achane will be back. Week 11, they're saying that barring any setbacks, he's going to be back week 11, which means is Mostert going to get that same workload, that same volume?
Exactly. So I don't agree with that trade either. Right now in the moment, it feels good. Yeah. But again, there's too many variables working against Mostert. And
but Jeff Wilson will be back. He wasn't even active this week, so we don't know how that split's gonna end up. And Mostert looked like he was taking a little bit of a backseat to Achane too.
Yes. And last year, we saw that Mike McDaniel realized in the second half he backed off on Mostert's workload. And if they have enough bodies, Jeff Wilson and Achane would do that. I do think they back off on his workload to keep him fresh for a playoff run, assuming they're going to make it. All right, Anthony, thanks for asking people to hit the like and subscribe button. Appreciate that. And let's get on to a couple real quick thoughts. So Jonathan Taylor moves up from 15% to 42%. 6 carries to 8 carries, but he gets 6 targets. Zack Moss plays a little more, but again, this is much closer. I kind of said it'd be 50-50 this week, and then Taylor would quickly take over. But there was 13 targets between the two running backs. They both PPR-wise do okay. Taylor and Moss did not get it going on the ground at all against Jacksonville, but their receiving work got it done for fantasy. Is this the last week we can start Moss?
I thought it was week 5. How do you keep the way Moss is playing? Like he got that valuable goal line touchdown that I really thought it was going to Jonathan Taylor. And now you get Cleveland, New Orleans, 2 really tough defenses. I don't know if we see Jonathan Taylor unleashed just yet.
I think it's going to be, hopefully it's next week.
Wouldn't you, if you're playing against Cleveland and New Orleans, right? Like 2 of the best run defenses, wouldn't you want to keep your backfield fresh?
You're probably right about that. That does make sense. But man, they paid Jonathan. They did not want to pay Jonathan Taylor. Paid him $42 million. You would think Irsay would blow his lid if Taylor is not getting work. Wouldn't that be? Could you see the office on Monday when the coaches get called in to talk to the owner?
It's a little bit mind blowing to this point already.
Oh, man. All right, let's talk some Monday Night Football. Anthony's Cowboys are playing tonight. They're 1.5-point favorites. That's the weirdest line. 1.5 is always a weird line.
On the road.
On the road. Over and under number is 51 on this one. So, first of all, the Chargers just can't. They have stars on defense. Bosa's expected to be back, and he's expected to play. He had a hamstring issue. Don't know if he's a full go. Derwin James is back. He missed before the bye, but this defense is not stopping pretty much anybody. How do you see the Cowboys offense doing in this game against the Chargers?
I mean, I would think this is the wake-up game. I've said it week after week. Dallas might be top 10 in scoring, but a lot of those touchdowns, a lot of those points are inflated because their defense has scored, 4 or 5 times this year.
Yes.
This Cowboys offense has not clicked yet. In theory, this is the game as long as Dak Prescott allows it to be the game and he doesn't give the game away. So it's on Dak. Playing in this matchup, this could be the Pollard and CD Lamb and Dak Prescott coming out party we've been waiting for.
Pollard's a huge player in this game. The Chargers are still horrible against the run. Not as tragically bad as they were last year, but they are not good against the run. Now, when we're looking at this game, Pollard, 8 carries for 29 against San Francisco, game scripted out. 11 for 47 against New England, meh. But he did have 122 yards against Arizona. There was that. How much production do we get from Tony Pollard against the Chargers?
Pollard has run the ball well. Hasn't really scored a lot. This could potentially be like 100 total yards, maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns against this Chargers defense that really doesn't have a hard time stopping the run.
We did talk about CD Lamb a little bit earlier. He has not gone over 53 yards in any of his last 3 games. He doesn't have more than 4 catches in any of those games. Circumstance blowout win in one game. Arizona, I can't explain that game. I got no answer for you. And then San Francisco, obviously Dallas was discombobulated. Is this the game we see CD Lamb go for $120?
I think it could and should be, and it might have to be. What worries me here is that the past 3 out of the past 4 meetings have gone under 20-17. 28-6, and then 20-17. Then there was one game that went over 30-21 back in 2013. But 3 out of the past 4 meetings have gone under, including last year, 20-17 victory. And it was in Los Angeles, and I believe this game's also being in Los Angeles as well.
So they're playing it back-to-back years?
No, that was 21. I'm sorry.
Well, 21. Okay, even so, though, because they have that new thing with the 17th game where you play an extra AFC team. Usually you wouldn't see that a non-conference mode for 4 years, but that kind of adds a little bit to it. So here's my biggest point.
Similar rosters, though, right? Not a lot has changed. You got Keenan Allen, Herbert, Eckler, Dallas. You got Dak, Pollard, Lamb. Like, a lot of similarities between these 2 units.
Absolutely. Now, I think the biggest point in this game is Kellen Moore. Dallas pretty much kicked him out the door. Mike McCarthy was really, I thought it was scathing. I thought the comments he made were really a slap in Kellen Moore's face about what he did, for that offense. And now Kellen Moore has Justin Herbert as his quarterback. Love Dak Prescott, but Justin Herbert is obviously Justin Herbert. Yeah. And now Kellen Moore knows pretty much all the players on the Dallas defense. Obviously, like Stephon Gilmore is new to them, but he knows the players. He knows their tendencies. He's had 2 weeks to prepare for this game, and that he wants to stick it to Mike McCarthy here. Do you see this? And by the way, Austin Eckler is a full go after missing multiple games with a hamstring injury. Or was it hamstring or was it an ankle?
I thought it was a hamstring.
Yeah, I thought so too. How do you see the Chargers shaping up on offense here?
They're going to have to come out firing on all cylinders because I don't think they can trust their defense. I don't know how you trust some of the decision making of the head coach. So I would expect, and also like the whole revenge game narrative for Kellen Moore, I think he's going to come and try to hang some points on this Dallas defense.
And I think he's going to have a lot of success. Look, we know Dallas has the pass rush. The Chargers have a very good offensive line. They're healthy. They're not lights out. They're not the Lions. They're not when the Browns are humming, but they're not a bottom half offensive line. And Rashawn Slater on the left tackle, he's going to do his job. The right side, they'll provide some help over there. I think it gives Herbert enough time to make some plays. And Herbert's pretty good at evading some pass rush as well. So I do think, look, Keenan Allen's going to probably get bracketed. They are going to need somebody to step up. They're going to need Josh Palmer. I don't know if Quentin Johnson gets acclimated in from the bye. Anthony, I always think about that with the bye week. They said all along they were bringing in Quentin Johnson slowly. And then Mike Williams gets hurt, and now they have a bye. They need a deep threat. I would imagine they spent the bye week specifically working on certain plays they need him to run successfully. What are your thoughts?
This could be, bye weeks are obviously use for certain scenarios. And this would be a good time to get this rookie acclimated because your bye week's now behind you in week 6. Josh Palmer's a nice piece, but if he was really the guy, right, the next man up, they would not have drafted Quentin Johnston.
You're right. Now, next question is going to be about Austin Eckler in this game. Dallas is going to be without Leighton Vander Esch. I think he's a big part of their run defense. Dallas can be run on. Eckler as a runner and in the screen game to mitigate the pass rush. Assuming Eckler is 100%er, which I assume they've held him out to make sure he was healthy. Is Eckler the linchpin in this game?
I think on both sides, I love both Eckler and Pollard to have big games. So, yeah, this could potentially be a nice welcoming back for fantasy managers when it comes to Austin Eckler. I think he's going to be heavily involved.
I heard my friends on the Athletic podcast make this comment, and I'm going to lift it because I thought the same thing when they said it. I am not picking the winner of this game because I guarantee you in the last 3 minutes of the game, one of the coaches is going to do something extremely stupid. And I don't know which coach it is because both coaches can and will do it. I just don't know which one's going to pay the price for it. Any comment on that?
No, I mean, look at the two coaches that are facing off outside of what Brian Daboll did last night to end each half. I mean, Daboll's now in the conversation with Mike McCarthy and Brandon Staley and Anthony Lynn with stupid decision making.
You know, Brian Daboll, his face is always red. It was redder at the end of the first half. He was pissed at Tyrod Taylor. He was screaming at him for checking into a run play. And so maybe was that one not on Daboll?
I honestly thought that was going to be a Taylor sneak. That was the run play. You don't, because they were up until like that whole the second half, Barkley came up. That whole first half, Barkley had like 12 carries for 14 yards. It was not good. So if you're going to check into a run play, you run a sneak. That's where I was going.
And that said, with the time on the clock, throw on one down. If you want to do the sneak, do it on the second one when the clock should be down to one play anyway.
I'm also puzzled. Why aren't you running more screens to Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, and I don't know if that was an ankle thing. It requires you to do more. There's a little more there's a little more freelancing on that. Maybe just a guess. Whereas when you're running the ball, you kind of dictate to a degree. Yeah, we'll see. That's a good question on that. Barkley overall, like you said, he got it done late with some big runs, but you're right. He did not look good in the first half at all. But now going forward, obviously he's back on the field. He played a heavy snap share. So is he right back in the RB1 discussion?
Absolutely. And even yesterday, fantasy-wise, I was telling everybody if he's active, he's going to get a full workload because I don't think the Giants are putting him out there for 10 touches.
No, right. That'd be a waste of time. So, Anthony, what are you betting on this game? Are there any where do people go to get promos? How do
Obviously, here at RotoWire, just go to Google. FanDuel's always running awesome promos. BetMGM, but Google RotoWire FanDuel promo code. It'll take you to the RotoWire site. You click on the link. There's no promo code to enter. You just sign up, make your deposit, and the bonus is automatically activated. Bet 5, get $200 in bonus bets. As far as, I like to throw a touchdown bet out there. The odds for Eckler and Tony Pollard are due minus 220 on Eckler, minus 185 for Pollard. You can parlay them and you get like minus 120, or I think it's like plus 125 odds, right? I think if this game goes away, I think it could potentially go. And like Jim said, no Leighton Vander Esch, and you can now run on Dallas. And I think it's going to be a big Pollard game. You can parlay Eckler and Pollard to score 2 each for plus 1142 odds. It's a long shot. I wouldn't go maybe a half a unit on it. But like even if you threw like let's say $10 on it, it pays out $1.14.
My bet on this game, I have two. CeeDee Lamb over to 71.5 yards. The Chargers have no answers at corner. Michael Davis plays reasonably well. Oh man, I don't know why the other guy's name evades me, but guy in the third year. But anyway, Lamb is going to be used a lot in the slot. They don't have an answer for that. Derwin James, I get they can deploy him in different ways. CeeDee Lamb wins anywhere and everywhere, and Dallas is going to have to score a lot of points in this game. So I like the over on Lamb. I also like the over, as you're saying, Anthony, on Tony Pollard's rushing yardage because the Chargers stop nobody. It's really going to be a very narrow tree in this game, and that's why I like to do that. But my best bet in this one, though, is the over 51. That revenge narrative with Kellen Moore, they are going to drop points on the board. Dallas is going to be in a shootout. They are able to hang in a shootout against this team. I don't think Joey Bosa is going to be 100%, but Dallas's line is getting healthier. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And so any bets that you're thinking beyond what you mentioned already?
Again, I think I'm with you on the over. The recent trends scare me. With the way the unders have been going, the way this weekend with unders has gone. But I think this is the game tonight that makes up for, anybody sitting with the 67 fantasy score. And you got guys tonight, they're going to give you a boost.
Love that. Got a couple last comments here. Let's see. Julia, does Dallas, we're going to regret bringing in Brandon Cooks and signing Gallup to that big contract? Real quick, what's your thought on Brandon Cooks so far? He hasn't done anything, but a couple bad games.
I didn't even know he's still on a team.
He may not be. Yeah, so that hasn't worked out. I'm optimistic it works out, but I have nothing to base it on. And right now, it just kind of looks like a lost season for him. I mean, Gallup has been okay. He had a couple decent games, had a 92-yard game a few weeks ago. So maybe at this point, Cooks will be a decoy for him. Does Cooks have any chance of turning it around?
I think so, but you're not using him in fantasy right now. Right now, it's hard to use Gallup. It's hard to use anybody or outside of Lamb and Pollard from and Ferguson. Like Dak's even obviously a nice matchup for Dak, but I need to see this Cowboys offense click.
Yes, and hopefully that's tonight. James Smith goes going forward. You prefer Kareem Hunt over Elijah Mitchell. He was almost in the upper 40% snap share yesterday. Saw some targets. Looks like he might be in game shape now. He's not the player he was. But I might say I do like Kareem Hunt over Elijah Mitchell right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt over Mitchell. Mitchell's always a little bit banged up. Plus, Jordan Mason's running really well. Where in Cleveland right now, it's a two-man show with Ford and Hunt. I get Pierre Strong's there, but it's really those two guys. Where in San Francisco, they can use anybody. Yeah,
I think Strong played like 2% of the snaps yesterday. So, yeah, he's an afterthought right now. Charlene mentioned about if Dak can stop throwing interceptions. Hopefully that's the case here. Lindorphins, Dolphins are on pace for the third most points per game in NFL history behind the Rams and the 2013 Broncos. Okay, there. And then last thing we're going to get here. How many sacks will Khalil Mack have tonight? Well, he had the 6-sack game against the Giants, right? Who? No, it wasn't the Giants. Who was he against? We had the 6-sack game where they had no offensive line. He was in the backfield every play. It was a couple weeks ago.
Was it? Oh, it was a couple weeks ago.
A couple weeks ago. Yeah, before the bye. He had like 6 sacks. I don't remember who they played, but they had no line, and he just was caving it in every play. Anyway, I don't think he gets one tonight. I think Dallas offensive line holds. Khalil Mack had the one big game against a compromised opponent. He's not that guy right now. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, Dallas's line is pretty good. It's when they're banged up, and I think they're getting a little bit healthier. Like they've been 2 or 3 guys have been in and out of the lineup the past 2 weeks, but I think this is the week where they get a little bit healthy, and they need to stand tall. Like this is a must-have game for both teams, but especially Dallas with teams like Philly and the 49ers losing. This is a must-have game, and I think we're going to see the best version of the Cowboys.
Absolutely. And those 6 sacks, Julia tells us we're against the Raiders. Yeah,
that was. Yeah, I was just looking.
It was a rugged game. All right, Anthony, tell everybody where they can find you and your work.
Absolutely. Follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. I do my day job here at RotoWire, the gambling group, and of course the live stream podcast at fffaceoff.com.
Anthony's on this show every Monday. Make sure you're following the FF Face Off. Again, at the real NFL Guru. And this show is on 5 days a week, 11 a.m. Eastern. We're off Wednesday and Thursday. The start sit stream is on Sundays. No London game this week, so that's a plus. For Anthony Cervino, I'm Jim Coventry. Everybody have a fantastic rest of your day.